Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. And first in the chat is Anders, who says good evening. Good evening, Anders. Uh, Sorry that we're late again today. I hit the button at 13:09. Go live, and it said okay. Setting up, and then it said, "Do you want to go live?" I was like, "Yeah, I said that 3 minutes ago." So here we are. Let me check the audio real quick. We know the chat works. I even remembered to update the title this time. Yes. Okay. So, uh, it's going to be a shorter show today because yesterday I had an exam and I passed it. Woo, woo. But that also meant that while I was cramming and studying and such, I did not uh, have time to look at all the usual news sources. So, what I might do is if we get distracted while reading an article and talking about it, we might just skim and discuss that one as well. So let's see. First up, let's go on over to our presentation view. We've got our collab cam turned on, so somebody could show up. Let's see. And Steven says, mind if I promote the group? Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, so let's switch to presentation view. And this first one, I don't know that I read it. I wrote it as a discussion point in the notes. In fact, let me move the notes over a bit. Yeah, that's what I want to do. There we go. So this first one is Sydney EV is saying, I've been an exclusive EV driver for 7 years now. And the last thing I want is a charging station to be anything like a petrol station. Let's see. Amenities, yes, like a shopping center. EV drivers want public chargers to feel more like gas stations, says study. Kind of in between on this one. Andrew says, "Congrats, thank you." Yeah, I missed 3 questions, but it's pass fail, so I passed. So the 3 questions don't matter. Next up is that one was on. It was supposed to be like the equivalent of like a PE physical education class, but I think it was how to be a gym coach for like elementary school based on the way everything was structured. It does the same thing. And then this week I've got ethics in IT on the pretest. Well, I didn't pass the pretest, not because of failure of ethics, but all the specific terms. So that's what I'm going to be studying this week and doing that test as well. But all the actual is this ethical and was this ethical but legal and this is legal but not ethical? Got all that stuff right. But is this existentialism? Is this blah blah blah? I don't know. Got it wrong. But that's what the whole point of a pretest is, so you know where to focus your studies. And where was I going before all of that? Yes. So I'm kind of in between on this whole should it be like a gas station situation. So what I like about gas stations is that typically they're open 24 hours, and that is what I want to see when I'm doing travels. In fact, you'll see on my supercharger reviews that I gave extra points or took points away based on when and if the site closes for the night. Let's see. Steve says wants to be on the show. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Um, send me a message, I guess, on X DM. Let's see. So the sites that close at like business hours, or like I would say business hours, but let's say 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is way too early to be closing on the if you're anywhere near like if it's not like some small town where they've got like one stoplight. 8 o'clock is too early to be closing at night. 10 o'clock I still feel is not ideal, but it's workable. The ones that close at 2 or 3 in the morning, that's fine. I don't take points off for that. Uh, but if they're open 24 hours, they get extra points. If they have hot food made to order during a reasonable hour, that's extra points. If they have like a cantina where you can just uh, like a convenience store or something, where you can get like a snack at all hours of the day, that's extra points. And one thing I do like about the gas stations is they tend to have a canopy, just like you're seeing in the picture. There's a canopy, and even better if that canopy has solar. Another thing that's nice about the gas station style is typically they'll have squeegees and trash cans. Not always, but it depends on the site really, but that's also worth extra as well. But there's something to be said for the stations that are at regular places like malls or grocery stores or stuff like that. But I don't, I don't. It depends on like if they're sited directly in a grocery store and there's other options around. I won't take points away for that. But the original intent was to make it so you could do long distance travel. They weren't meant to replace home chargers. And in fact, there's one I reviewed in Arlington that is on top of an apartment building, and well, actually, the apartment building's a parking garage, but that one I rated differently because it's an urban supercharger. It's meant for people who don't have home chargers. But the regular travel chargers, I needed to be able to get in and get out all hours of the day. A bonus if I can do it with a trailer without unhooking, and then even better if I can go to the bathroom without leaving the site, and get something to eat all day long. So that part I do like about the gas station model. But as far as the, I'm maybe we're on an adventure, and this is a travel center, but it's not a fuel station style. There is something to be said about that as long as it doesn't close. Or if it closes, it's like after 3 a.m. It's just, I know I'm weird like that. A lot of people aren't on the road. And in fact, if you have Tesla insurance, they're hitting you for every minute you're driving after, what is it, 11 p.m.? So maybe 10. Either way, it's ridiculously early for people who are on road trips. Let's see. Our town has five level two chargers now. Nice. It would be. I don't mind level two chargers if they're at proper destinations or someplace you're going to be for a minute, like an event area or a grocery store or a theater. Awesome when it's at your place of business. But there are cases where level two is not appropriate, and other cases where they have DC chargers where a level two would be a better situation to have. So let's click through to this article. Wait, that's from the street. Let's not click through to this article because if they have a number of free ones, I don't want to waste any. Let's skim other people's comments and see if they agree with us. Shade is hard to beat. Yep, I do like that about the canopy. Saves wasting kilowatt hours, but avoiding the double shuffle is a big plus for EVs. Plug in on arrival and walk. Do blah, unplug and depart. Yeah, that's one thing I do like about the mall chargers, is you can go and do other stuff. But again, I don't even mind it's at the mall as long as I can go take a leak and I can get something to eat without having to go anywhere. It's not so bad if there's places like that that are on the way, like the one in Santee is depending on which direction you're headed, Santee, South Carolina. If you're headed south, you hit the rest stop, then the supercharger. Headed north, you hit the supercharger, then the rest stop. That's fine. Like they're literally on the exit, so even better are the travel plazas of the Northeast, where you're like in Jersey and Massachusetts, New York, well, parts of New York, where you can just pull off the highway, go recharge, go get a snack, go to a nice large clean restroom, and then get back on the road. But I understand they're not legal everywhere in the country because of how they work. And the reason they work best there is that they are toll plazas. So technically, the site is owned by whoever's either the state or whoever's administering the toll plaza for that contract. Interesting. I'm getting pings. Oh, okay, I can skip that. Oh wow, it blanks it for you guys when I look off the screen. I'll have to be more mindful of that. Shade is a big one, and let's see. Gas station model works, and that's why some people want it. Yeah, I'll give you that. Pull through chargers, yes, pull through chargers, and on-site amenities. That said, I'm all for a better experience and bring on the competition, develop a model exclusive TVs, and that's cool right there. If there's a mixture, I like having choice. But if there's only going to be one, they get extra points for being useful all day long. All right, so what is our next article? It's going to be about Kia. We're looking at the Kia has slashed the prices on the EV6, EV9. Prices are now slashed by up to 10K in Korea to boost demand. And this is something that we've seen out of Tesla and the other exclusive EV places, versus what we see from all the other legacies where they sit there and complain, oh, nobody wants our electric cars, so that must mean that no electric car is profitable, and nobody wants them, blah, blah, blah. This is the way to do it. Uh, you make the car affordable at whatever level you need it to be at so that you can sell it, and then just adjust the price. That's what Tesla does. That's what they do with their gas cars. They usually do the money on the hood thing. That way it doesn't affect the resale values, but Tesla doesn't have dealers, so they can't do the money on the hood. They can do what we just saw with the Model Y, where it was on a temporary sale that ended on March 1st. We can do that. And you might be saying, well, you've kind of stopped talking about all the various price changes, but why this one? Well, one, this one was rather significant. And two, like I said, Tesla does like 5 price changes a week sometimes. And it's really hard to keep track of them all, especially the way I encounter the news. But if they had like a major sale, you've seen me talk about it, like the return of the FSD transfer and that sort of thing that came about. All right, so I don't even need to read the article on that one, unless any of you guys are out in Korea and we want to look at it together. Kind of like I do for the China stuff. We don't really need to speak to details on the China sales because anyone in China should be blocked from seeing me, at least on the platforms I publish on. Okay. That's a tweet by me. This is unfortunate. I was hoping for a bigger Model X with 1 or 2 less seats, not a giant silver Model Y. A good thing with those outlets, I can just bring my laptop for a full-on LAN or a full-on LAN party PC. What's your take on Cybertruck's features? And so this is coming from Drive Tesla Canada and um, Green the Only, the white hat hacker. We'll talk about that in a moment. But basically, it's suggesting that the Cybertrucks that are rolling around today are not going to be able to play Steam because just like the first Model S and X Plaids or Palladiums, I should say, not just the Plaids, uh, and then all of the Model Ys out there today, they don't have the graphics chip and they don't have the RAM to run the program. Let's see. Things like power share capability and outlets should hopefully trickle down to the rest of the Tesla lineup soon, and I agree with that. I suspect they will, but I don't think they will dramatically raise the towing limits of the Model X. Otherwise, I'd get one of those. Yes, I totally would get another Model X if I could tow like double. Maybe the next Model Y will get all the goodies except the towing, obviously. Which one are you looking forward to the most? So, with that one, excuse me, what I'm suggesting is that Juniper will give us a little bit of what we've seen from the new S and the X, and a lot of what we've seen from the new Highland Model 3. And then I'm thinking that we'll get some bits of the Cybertruck stuff, but I don't know that this next version will have power share or anything like that. But it's not going to be far off, and they probably won't wait for a full refresh to do stuff like that. Whereas like steer-by-wire and the 48-volt architecture is unlikely to show up in any of the existing cars soon. I'm not saying that it won't happen to them, but it won't happen soon. Cybertruck with the next gen 4680s of silicon that should lead to improved charging speed and energy density. But for the rest of the lineup, Model Y checks most of the boxes for most people. When they add things like front bumper camera and vehicle to anything, and hopefully outlets, it'll be killer. Yeah, and I think that part will come before the 48-volt architecture, the power share and the outlets, because uh, it's really a matter of either adding an inverter or switching the charging equipment out from just an onboard charger to an onboard charger inverter. And they have plenty of experience with that with Powerwall and Powerwall Plus and their Tesla Solar initiatives. So it's just a matter of getting the price and packaging to where they can just slip it in to what they've already started doing. That's going to make it happen faster. If they have to re-architect anything, that's where it starts to take longer. Let's see. All right, so let's get into it. Due to hardware limitations, I guess I kind of told you the whole article there. That's weak sauce. I don't understand. How can it not have a dedicated GPU? It needs to run the nav screen. Don't think we have all the details. I think that's a matter of I don't know if it's using integrated graphics or if it's just not the one that's good enough for gaming. But yeah, it has a GPU, but not necessarily one that's good enough for gaming. But what we're talking about there is the discrete GPU. All right, let's go into the article, which just takes us back to tweets. So Green points out it doesn't have the 16 gigs of RAM or 256 gig of storage, and it looks like they have the 8 gig of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, which is the problem. Doesn't mean that it can't run Steam and that it can't do the other stuff. It's that Tesla doesn't currently offer Steam on any of the cars without more RAM and a discrete GPU. So there's his tweets. Looked at the Cybertruck a little bit. Big display, 2650 by 1440. Nice, 1440p. But a little bigger than the PC monitor size of it. SNX is 220 by 1300. Rear display is 1440 by 900. Same as the SNX, but the SNX is limited to 1280 by 720 in software. Interesting. It's also bigger than the one in the SNX, if I'm not mistaken. While Steam support is part of the firmware, same as the S and the X, it's not showing up for anybody with the Cybertruck because today, the car computer is roughly the same spec as a modern 3 and Y with the original S and X refresh, and the original S and X refresh, with only 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. Discrete GPU is presence unclear, probably not there. Like I said in my original post, I'm not likely to be gaming in my vehicle, but it's nice to be able to. All right, got this one from Sawyer. He's quoting somebody else. Let's see what they're saying. BYD boss, we're not planning to come to the US. It's an interesting market, but it's very complicated if you're talking about EVs. She added that the company does not invest in EVs. You are out. You will die. You have what? Oh, sorry, I need to look at the bigger screen on this. She added that if a car company does not invest in EVs, you're out. You will die. You have no future. So there is accurate. The same thing that Musk is saying. Same thing that RJ is saying. Uh, Same thing that Ford is trying to let people hear, but they they have a legacy market to support at the moment, so they're not shouting it at the rooftops. So that's all I want to say on that one. Okay, so the Model Y 2024 has scored near perfect scores in the IIHS crash test. And here we can see this is obviously the NHTSA crash test in the photograph. Why do I say obviously? Because IIHS tests their stuff indoors, and the NHTSA, well, uh, who needs a building? You've got an open field. So the electric SUV scored near perfect in crash tests. Part of the problem, Mark pointed out on this week's the Tesla Live show, is that it looks like the IIHS ran out of time for everybody's top pick plus, so nobody got it, not just the Tesla. So let's zoom in a little bit and see what we can see. Tesla topped the list of safest cars again, performing as well as the 2024 Model Y is amongst the 22 vehicles that received the top Safety Pick Plus award. What? So then what we're talking about then is the perfect test. Let's see. The president committed we followed tougher requirements that we introduced last year with a major update to the award criteria in 2024. This year's winners are true standouts, offering the highest level of protection for both vehicle occupants and other vulnerable road users. So we can see that it scored a good in small overlap, moderate overlap front, which is the updated test, side updated test, headlights, front crash prevention, pedestrian, standard system. And they got only unacceptable for seat belts and child restraints. And the reason was the latch ease of use. And baby seats are ridiculously difficult. And latch, I mean, I've seen good implementations of latch, and I've seen just average ones, and Tesla was kind of average, so they are in that. I've seen some bad ones. Thankfully, Tesla isn't there. The only thing where Tesla didn't score at the top is one in child restraints category, which we just talked about. Let's see. What's this one? Rear passenger restraints and dummy kinematics. Or kinematics. And the tethers and anchors. Overall, A. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 was also the only EV to receive the top Safety Pick Plus award, and the Rivian R1S and R1T received the top Safety Pick, so not the Plus. And neato. What if anybody here addresses what Mark was talking about? About the incomplete tests. Let's see. Kudos to Tesla for being in and continuing in the top category. Okay. Checking something real quick. Yeah, 15. I was a little in the weeds in some of the discussions on other posts. I need to go back and check on. As you saw on my Twitter or my X, it's got a couple that came in overnight, and I didn't get to them yet. What? This person suggesting all crash tests are weak sauce, despite the fact that this one was just updated. They only crashed into a fixed barrier or using a medium-sized vehicle for side crash. Hopefully this person schools them a little bit. Illustrate the danger of heavy vehicles like the Hummer. Show how safe or unsafe vehicles are when running into heavy vehicles. Well, a noble goal. I don't see it happening in the U.S. The big three sold America on the need for large, heavy vehicles, and they have not looked back. Yeah, because they are using it to avoid emissions. Um, it's going to be a minute before we get around on that. Continuing on. All right, we talked about Cybertruck and gaming hardware from Drive Tesla Canada. This one, I looked at the pictures, I saved it, said I'll get back to reading it, and then did not. So let's look at the pictures. Eventually. It's just spinning. So while we wait for that to spin, let's load up another article. This is from Anders, our Anders. Anders shows us today it is 4 months since the strike at Tesla started. Here is the debate between, let's go into the tweet so we can read it. And president of IF Metal, at IF Metal, and this guy at Swedish Television TV4. So he wants to know why Mary is lying. Tesla has not flown in strikebreakers from abroad, not a single one. It's a made-up story for you and your union. IF Metal went out on October 24th with the sympathy measures to close to 20 auto repair shops, fixing Tesla cars 3 days before the main strike went on October 27th. So again, in this particular case, auto repair shops, we're talking about the body repair shops for collision repair. Agreements with the union are not flexible. The 30 who were forced to leave Hydro Extrusion day one and the 20 who were notified at Hydro, the first 30, no one talks about. They don't seem to exist. Yep. And then the 20 that got fired, they say boo-hoo, boo-hoo, but really, their union failed them right there. And again, I'm not against unions. I'm not against sympathy strikes. I am against this. You're in sympathy with what? There's an empty parking lot because there's practically nobody on strike. Where did it go? So the number of strikers at Tesla today is extremely few. More than 90% of Tesla workers have chosen to work despite the strike. And we're not saying like 90% of a gigafactory. We're saying 90% of a shop, a local shop. So, and not just a local shop, obviously everything in Sweden. So we're talking out of 300 people, there's up to 30 that are on strike. But really looks like closer to 13. Despite the strike, where did you get the 1932 lost working days that you gave for the Mediation Institute? Even that number is a made-up number. You consider that there is an even playground on the labor market between the unions and the companies. If you take out on strike, what can the company do then according to you? And he's got a point. They have the legal right to say no. The employees have the legal right to say no. And then you've got whatever the hell this is. So he's right. How are they supposed to square this circle? They're being basically blackmailed. Since where did it go? You consider this an even playground on the labor market between those unions and companies. Take out a strike. What can they do according to you? Since you made up the lie that Tesla flew in strikebreakers, can they do anything? Since it is a made up story on your part and the entire thesis that you were forced to resort to sympathetic measures falls flat, and I and many believe with me that your strikes are 1-0 to you. Then you call out sympathy strikes. Then it'll be 2-0 to you. And then when Tesla moves personnel from center to center, which they always did, this is true. Tesla, they might not be the most efficient about the way they do it. For a while, when I first got my Model S, and right up until we found a local um, mobile repair tech, they were actually flying. Actually, that one was a mess even further. Even after we had our own mobile repair tech in Charleston, he was being flown to Puerto Rico a couple times to do the repairs out there because they didn't have a mobile repair tech in Puerto Rico. So it was like, and it was on a regular rotating schedule. So they just knew like, hey, the third Monday, the Tesla guy will be here. Like uh, stuff like that. They move people around, but like I said, they're not always efficient about it. So let's see. Um, Tesla moves personnel from center to center, which they always did. If someone was sick, etc., then they try to smoothly resolve the situation. Then with each sympathy strike, your number only increases 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. Today is probably closer to 10-1. Where's the balance in your low intensity war that you claim is going on? The whole model with collective agreements is based on a model that there is a counterparty to the company. The staff would somehow work against their counterparty to the company. That the staff would somehow work against their will. That they must have someone who protects them. At Tesla, the whole company team is where everyone pulls their straw and everyone wants to move forward. Therefore, no one is needed to represent these workers. Um, at the moment, they don't need or want it, so that's what I would say. That you're right today. Obviously, if things changed and they all decided they wanted something and they all walked out, I would say, hey, that's a whole different situation than what we're looking at today. And then I'd have to think long and hard and probably come out on the side of the workers. How did the interviewers approach this interview? Were they objective and balanced in their questions and follow-ups? Did they challenge anything that was said with their own research? I don't speak Swedish, so I can't tell. It will come transcription shortly. But Benjamin tried to keep a balanced approach. He did represent a big organization with 60,000 members who are mostly company owners and 60% of small company owners who don't have a collective agreement. He said that collective agreement could benefit many companies, but it isn't and shouldn't be mandatory. It isn't flexible and doesn't fit Tesla's approach. Same as we saw with the shop whose grandfather signed them up for the agreement, and then they were facing bankruptcy because they couldn't work on their customers' cars anymore. That would have been noble if they were doing sympathy support of the employees, but there were no employees to, I mean, not zero, but there were no employees to support in this matter. Lee says, Happy Sunday, Lee. Good to see you. And let's go on to the next one. And do I want to... let me open this other one, and then we'll move it, because these two... Hold on. I've got a bunch of stuff blocked out, and usually that's blocked out for metal. But it looks like this is the only metal we have this week. So never mind. We will continue on. Uh, the stuff I have blocked out is much more fun and exciting. So we will get to that in a moment. Let's continue on. Privacy error. Certain name is invalid. Apparently, if I just refreshed it, I got a proper cert. I don't know what happened with them. I was like, yeah, I don't want to accept an invalid cert from a company that typically has them well. So I said, let's refresh it and see what happens. And it popped right up. So we're good. So this was the article that we were waiting on loading earlier. Fiat's retro future includes the Panda City car, truck, SUV, and camper. And it wasn't just them, but this is the only one that ended up in the article, I think. Or in the article, in the show. Starting in July 2024, Fiat will introduce one new model each year through 2027 with pure electric, hybrid, and ICE powertrains. Uh, that's a weird choice right there, considering that they're a European company and their deadlines were a little bit closer than everybody else's. So it wasn't about the concepts. It was more about this subhead right here about the fact they're going to do one model each year through 27. So that's, if they do one this year, then we're looking at 3. If we don't, then we're looking at 2. But either way, more new EVs and plugins, always good. Hybrids, not really, but okay, better than just pure gas. So don't care about your concepts. So yeah, that was it. Just the subhead. Solarman says, in Geneva, you'll see many dream cars and concepts, but what I have just shown you is no dream, it's reality. That didn't look like reality to me. One seems to forget that historically folks have found ways to import vehicles not sold new in the US as used vehicles. There's a whole used vehicle possibility of the secondary market to get all models into the US as used model. Excuse me, except that will take about 20 years before we can get them in here en masse. Unless you're talking about used vehicles from the US, but it looks like you're saying into the US. So 20 years. All right, so Tesla Economics says that the Tesla Model Y just received the highest possible safety rating from IIHS. This is a car you want you and your loved ones in if you take safety very seriously. Yeah, like I said, my wife and I were rammed repeatedly by a semi truck loaded, and we came out with minimal damage, both to us and the car. Um, like versus if you consider what we were going to drive that day was our Volt, except I had forgot to charge the Volt because normally I just let it sit there in the driveway, and so we took the Model S, and that was a blessing on our part. All right, we're getting close to the fun stuff. Let's see. Hawaii becomes the 4th state to bring a NEVI EV station online, and I didn't read the article because that was all I wanted from it was that they were the 4th to do it. But let's see if there's any details that are worth looking at, like the location. Aloha State follows Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania in opening NEVI-funded DC fast charging stations. It's at the Kauai Park and Ride lot near Kuilani's intersection with I've totally butchered all of you guys' pronunciations at Puni Avenue, and it features 4 EV Connect 150 kilowatt DC fast chargers with CCS and CHAdeMO ports. Teslas can also charge here, but you'll have to use the NACS adapters. So you can tell this wasn't Texas or Oregon because they took the time to put CHAdeMOs in there and not NACS. Eventually, we'll see NACS end up here at the station if they keep up the maintenance, and CHAdeMO is not really a bad idea on Hawaii because it's a little difficult to bring cars in and out of the state. It's not impossible, but it's just expensive. So you probably have a lot more Leafs that are still in circulation. Interesting. The first station design and construction cost $3 million for 4 stations, four chargers. Yeah, I can see why everybody's letting Tesla do it because theirs are so much cheaper. With 2.4 million coming from federal funds and 600,000 from the state highway fund. It did say 4, right? 4. So 8 connectors, of which you can use 4 at a time. They're not even like 350 kilowatts. $3 million. Oh. And I'm not a fan of just giving it all to Tesla, but Tesla and SpaceX, they just seem to run more efficiently than many of these other companies. Additional 10 NEVI-funded DC fast chargers are planned for the state, and Hawaii's Department of Transportation will open the next one at Aloha Tower on Oahu. The DOT currently operates a fleet of 43 Teslas and 45 Ford F-150 Lightnings and will buy more. Sounds like you need NACS. Saying. Because your Teslas won't be able to use it at all without an adapter. And then your 2025 and up Lightnings won't be able to use it without an adapter. Come on now. Hmm. Anyway, let's continue on before I get upset at poor implementations. All right, so the first one is a X post from Tesla charging. Nope, it's not. It's Tesla's site. Charging for all. It's got this little movie. She's using her app to activate charging on her Mach E. Pretty cool stuff. She's stopping the charging the correct way and putting her adapter back in the car. There we go. So that opened. We talked about it coming on. Oh wow, thank you, Zachary. Zachary has donated $4.99, and thank you for your great work. I'm gonna watch it later. Excellent. We'll talk to you later. Um, so on this one, basically what Tesla's trying to let us know is that this is the opening of the supercharger network. The first member of the supercharger coalition, Ford, came online this week, and we've got a bunch of tweets about that. So we're going to go through it. Talking about optimized design, no moving parts, and designed to be as lightweighted, compact, and efficient as possible. And you saw how compact that was in her hand. Fast charging, charge from AC or DC sources with one connector at the fastest charging speeds possible. That's about NACS itself, not about the adapter, because the adapter is DC only. Reliable performance developed from over 20 billion miles of charging. Performance and safety of the NACS design has been pressure tested and proven. Mm-hmm. Let me see a Cybertruck at a V3. Throughout 2024 and 2025, our North American supercharging network is opening to more automakers. As automakers transition to NACS, EV drivers will be able to access superchargers using adapters provided by the automakers. Soon, all new EVs will come with NACS charge ports built in, and adapters will no longer be needed. If you do not yet have access, your automaker may be joining our network soon. It's a weird little disclaimer to put out there, because really the only ones who have not joined yet are who's it left? Possibly Ferrari, and technically Stellantis isn't joined, but they've got the port coming next year. And VinFast, yes, VinFast. And then anybody who makes like the medium duty trucks, basically the like the box trucks, all the way up to the Class 6 work trucks. So, but it's a good little legal cop out to put in there. So right now, supported is Ford, coming soon, Rivian, GM. I wonder if that's the order they're coming in, because that's not the order they joined in, and that's not alphabetical order. That would be so cool to see Rivian join in and get their stuff turned on before GM, because GM was number 2 to join the Supercharger Coalition. Wow. I wonder what the criteria is. Obviously, Ford being first. Aptera technically was before them, but they don't have a car on the market yet, and they are already native NACS, so you don't need an adapter for them. Wow, what's the deal there? It doesn't spell anything. RGVP. Volvo and Polestar will be pretty much at the same time, but Volvo did join before Polestar did. Rivian, then General Motors. What do you guys think? Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy says Rivian, most fast and make things. Yeah, it could be very much the fact that Rivian's actually committed to the game and GM is sitting there backpedaling. It could be that, or perhaps it's a matter that they were able to satisfy the population of Rivian owners faster than the population of GM drivers, because you had R1T and R1S, and there were less of them. But Rivian move fast and make things. Okay, yeah, I got you now, Mr. Electric Carbon. See, um, like they would be able to have a larger portion of their population of owners done before GMs, because GM was outselling Nissan for a while, and then they started doing the backpedaling. Basically, what happened to there is they can't seem to ramp Ultium, and they switched everything to Ultium. Also, the Bolt was on recall for years. Find a charger. You can find it right there in your Tesla app. And Tesla had said when they made the announcement, so did Ford, that you'd use your Ford app. But from what I can see, you use the charging station finder in the car, and then you use the Tesla app. And when you register in Tesla, we'll talk about that as we get to some of the other upcoming pieces. Um, Arguing on Facebook with somebody who thinks Canoe will be bad. Oh, that's another one that's missing. Canoe is not yet joined up, but they also don't yet have any cars. So I mean, they don't have any consumer cars, so does it matter yet? Because like right now, Walmart and the Army and whoever else, NASA, they can charge them right there on site. Uh, on Facebook with somebody who thinks that Canoe will be bad at stop and go driving because, in his opinion, a diesel hybrid would be better. What? A diesel hybrid is only if you can't stop for some reason. I mean, like you slow down and stop, but you can't like park. Stop and go for USPS, order car, and driver. Never wrote about. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Canoe also got the postal service, but the postal service they got Canoe and the Ford Transit EV, or yeah, the Ford Transit EV. Um, but they put the Transit in just a year early to not have the NAC support. So they're going to have a mixture of either they're going to have a bunch of free adapters and then have to. I don't think that was the most efficient way they did their rollout, but yeah, they don't have to burn gas and oil and maintenance for a year, which is nice. But it's just weird that they didn't put in the NACS EV SEs and then put an adapter back to J1772 on them, so they could just be assured that any of the new trucks would be fine. It's just weird to do that in 2024. Stop and go for USPS, order car and driver wrote about. Yeah. So this was a nice photo from the video shoot that Tesla did a while ago, or from a meetup that people had. I can't recall what the origination of this photo was, uh, but you can see harmony. They're not all plugged in and charging because obviously the Mach-E and the Rivian charge up front. um, the Hummer could be charging, but it's probably not because see even the Model Y cable is not plugged in, and Cybertruck doesn't appear to be plugged in. All right, so let's continue on with this little featurette. Tesla Charging on X says, same video, we're opening our supercharger network to NACS committed automakers starting today. Notice that they said that. So I guess they're not ruling out Stellantis, even though Stellantis didn't want to participate. But at the same time, all it really means is that Stellantis customers don't get it in their app. They could still have it on their screen, but what you'll see is they'll have to open the Tesla app, just like this lady did, even though she didn't have to. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Oh, they wrote that in January. Just now putting it on Facebook. Never mind, not news. Okay. All right, so then I said, get ready for some new supercharger neighbors. Great to see Ford CEO Jim Farley out there testing the new NACS to CCS1 adapter himself with the Mach-E. I wonder if this sparks an adapter selfie trend. And it could. What do you think? Jim over here saying, it's here! I'm doing testing and excited to share more with you very soon. So he's holding the NACS adapter for the Fords. They're all the same basically, but that's the one they're putting in the box and giving away to their customers. And I do like that. Ford is giving them at no charge, no shipping costs. Obviously, just one per VIN. And if you haven't already requested one, go ahead and do that. If you have a Ford, if I say I can't like my own tweet. But I have a Ford. I meant to like Jim's, and I did already. Uh, if you have a Mach E or a Ford Lightning, you can go ahead and request one. If you have a Transit, you're a little bit SOL. My goodness, that adapter is massive. Reminds me of this brick phone. It's not that big. Well, it's a little big, but it's not that big. It's smaller than our NACS to CCS1 to NACS adapter the other direction. That was not too big either, though. Ultra Red Mach-E. Oh, he even identified which supercharger that is. Are you at the Northville, Michigan supercharger? And Farley says, yeah, I was out there about 30 minutes yesterday, right off the expressway. Was that you and your Tesla streaming? Fortunately, it wasn't me. If it was, I didn't have my kids with me and probably would be streaming something EV related. Interesting. Uh, let's continue on this little Max featurette. Walter McVeigh on X says, is there any plan to move the charging port location to the common NAX location in the future models? That was in response to Farley's tweet. So I guess I had saved that one before I made my own. I don't know. No, because this one is plugged in and it's charging. But that's cool. Uh, so we saw a lot of people whining and complaining about, oh my goodness, he's using up 2 stalls. Uh, hopefully, I've got the link to something else about that at the end. Remind me if I did talk about it. Uh, so yeah, I didn't talk about it. We'll talk about it right after this. Oh, right. So this answer was to me. It says plug and charge. I said awesome. Uh, so I was asking, is this plug and charge or was somebody operating the app off camera? So she thinks she's hear it. I don't know if you can hear it now. Let me check. It doesn't sound like you can hear it. So she's basically telling you how it works for free. So then she tells you how to unplug it and basically reverse push the button, wait for it to unclick, and then you disconnect the adapter. So this was really cool right here. So what that means is with it being plug and charge, once you've registered your Ford in the Tesla app, you get the Tesla experience. You just unplug or pull up, undock it, pop your adapter in, pop it into the car. No fussing about with apps, no having to get your credit card out, and it just charges your credit card just like a Tesla. We might talk about this later, but you can join up to the Supercharger subscription. We are going to talk about this later, but you can join the Supercharger subscription to get the same pricing as Tesla customers. So let's continue on. Excuse me. So that looks like the Ford adapter, doesn't it? Rivian has announced that they plan to release an OTA update in March that will introduce Tesla supercharging locations within the R1 and Rivian app trip planners with supercharger access to follow. And Ford did the same thing. They'd had a update right before the adapters started hitting the streets. Anyway, so trip planners with supercharger access to follow. Rivian will provide R1 owners with free NACS to CCS adapter. Read more at stories.rivian. We'll do that in a second. And then Rivian says supercharger access is coming to Rivian. That's 15,000 more fast chargers for Rivian owners in North America. In March, we'll be adding supercharger sites to our vehicle and app trip planner with adapter shipments starting soon after. Start planning your road trips. Not bad. And then a lot of people whining they're not saying Tesla. They're going to see it when they get to the superchargers. Um, oh, that link. I was going to click on it. All right, so this was in the Rivian newsletter, which I didn't notice before. Looks nice. That guy looks familiar. All right, so we're not going to scroll through their whole newsletter. It looks sharp, very well done. Continuing on, I think that's the Rivian tweet. It is. All right, so I was talking about as you register your car with Tesla, they'll ask you what you have. So we notice this is not a Magic Dock. This is the customer adapter. So in the app, when you register your car, it tells you that you may need to move over the line to actually charge nicely. But since you're already using up 2 spots anyway, that's fine. But they don't want you using up 3 spots. So if you have a car that needs to charge like this, they tell you it's no. Uh, but if you have one like a Mach-E or a Lightning, they'll tell you, hey, just move it over a little bit. It'll be all right. Avoid parking diagonally to reach the cable to try and obstruct as few charge posts as possible. Charge port locations vary by EV model, which requires cable sharing between adjacent stalls at many sites. Tesla is rapidly deploying the V4 supercharger post, which reaches all EVs in the same supercharger stall. Additionally, we encourage all vehicle manufacturers to standardize port locations to the rear driver side or front passenger side, advised Tesla. There you go. All right, so that's basically what you see in the app when you tell them what car you have. If you have a car that has it in the Tesla spot, they don't bother you. You say, all right, enjoy supercharging. Bruce says Tesla has addressed the cable concerns for NACS supercharger sites, and he says as opposed presumably to all those non-NACS supercharger sites. Uh, because you can have a NACS port, but still not be a NACS supercharger site if it's something like the V2 superchargers that only speak CAN bus. Uh, yeah, that would be easiest, but also expensive. Bruce is wrong about that. The V4 dispensers are often mounted in the center of the parking space. And this is Tesla's diagram. It's a picture of the app, not coming from the article writer. All right, then Sawyer says, by opening up the supercharger network, EV owners will now get a taste of the Super Tesla ownership experience and how easy and reliable superchargers are to use. Uh, it brings non-Tesla owners closer to Tesla vehicles. Perhaps they'll have a chat with a Tesla owner while charging, or maybe the Tesla owner will show the Mach-E owner that Model Y, well, their Model Y. Perhaps it'll even help sell a few Teslas in the future. And I don't think that's what Tesla's going for, because their mission is to just make sure everything's electric, then worry about the rest of the fight. But there will probably be some conquest sales. Tesla's selling a $13 a month supercharger membership package for non-Tesla EV owners. There are two plans: pay as you use or pay as you go, which is exactly what the Tesla owners have, but at a higher price. You plug in, it charges you, you keep on going. Then there's membership, which is $12.99 a month. We first saw this open up in Europe with the Charge Your Non-Tesla program opening up there. And what you get is for $12.99, they drop your prices down to match what Tesla owners pay. And if you are on, say, a whirlwind by car vacation, this will make sense. Or if you travel enough that you use the superchargers enough that the lower rate will pay for itself, is another good reason to do this. So let's see, long term, giving access to this network to non Teslas will generate billions for Tesla. It pushes Tesla's mission forward. Overall, it's a win for everyone. Agreed. So they got the plans page you go and membership. They will let you sign up for this if you have a Tesla. Unless you just like giving Tesla money, you don't need this if all you have in your house are Teslas because you've already got it. So it gives you no benefit. You're just giving them $13 a month for nothing extra. I guess maybe if you wanted to grab a rental car or something, you would then be able to use the same rates you are used to. I don't know why you would do this. I do know why you would do this if you had a non-Tesla, but as a Tesla owner, I don't know why you would do it. Start the money printer. It depends on the behavior when they get there. I've seen some that are definitely fanatics. Thankfully, way more online than in person. Um, all right, moving on. I think this is approaching the end of our feature. My friend Kyle says, try the official Tesla charging adapter at Tesla supercharger station open to Ford vehicles with a Volvo. It doesn't work. It means one of two things. Tesla is still looking for an ISO 15118 certificate exchange, even with manual activation via the Tesla app. This means this is most likely because even Ford vehicles require a software update in order to use the network. Or two, Fords with the newest software update leave a specific fingerprint or oddity in the communications that Supercharger picks up on when doing manual activation, which is less likely. Third-party adapters will work for Fords with the Supercharger software update, by the way, but they're not recommended or approved by Tesla or the other automakers involved. So, this right here is exactly what I was speculating before when I saw that Stellantis never mentioned Tesla. There's two possibilities we'll see here is that one, this will only work on Magic Dock superchargers, whether you use your own adapter or not, and two, that Stellantis actually did make an agreement with Tesla to join the supercharger coalition, but they were so hell-bent on not using the word Tesla or supercharger anywhere in the press release that they just didn't, but yet they did all of the necessary legwork to make it work, which is super weird because everybody would want to talk about the additional 15,000 stations you can use, even if they found a way to say it without saying Tesla. Whereas Stellantis only talked about their magical network that finally has a name but still has no chargers. It will be growing and such by the time the Dodge bunch of retro names appears, but it doesn't do any good for for the van that came out last month even if you have the adapter based on this. So Kyle went to San Rafael, California. 7 of 8 stalls available. Plugged in, and it said, "No, unauthorized, bro. Your vehicle's not able to start to charge at superchargers at this time." Also, peep early 2016 pre AP2 Model S facelift with a 21-inch arachnids. That guy right there. Yeah, that came after my Model S. Still had AP1, but it had the new nose. Brandon thinks that number 2 is more likely. And let's continue on. The last one in our NACS feature for the day. Tesla superchargers cost more for other EVs unless you buy a membership. The Tesla supercharger network is opening up for other EVs, but charging costs extra for outsiders. $12.99 a month. Turn on the fan here. What I ought to do is make the thermostat pay attention to the sensor that's in here. So Tesla's charging owners of other EVs roughly 35% more per kilowatt hour, according to the rates listed on the company's app. Supercharging rates vary widely by location and time of day. Some stations offer lower prices during off-peak hours. That's just a ballpark. At some locations, we observed premiums of closer to 37%, while others it was as low as 23% during off-peak hours. However, Tesla is offering a $12.99 per month membership that grants EV owners the same pricing that Tesla drivers get. That may be worth it depending on how much one plans to supercharge. Yeah, and like I said, this is with this being month to month. If you have a road vacation during the summer or winter or whatever, this would be a good idea to pick up for your road trip. Uh, it's a little bit tougher calculus if you are a supercommuter, or if you live in a multifamily dwelling with no uh, charging facilities, or if you live in a place that may be a single family but doesn't have off-street parking. So if you're parking on the street and your city is not progressive enough to have chargers installed or to be lining up the what we talked about with the SAE J3400 with the detachable cables, aka JNEX. Real example: take a peak rate at one supercharger in LA, 61 cents. Ooh, there's my chest. 61 cents a kilowatt hour for non-members, but 45 cents a kilowatt hour for members. Those members, using those numbers, would only take around 81 kilowatt hours of charging, roughly 60% of the battery capacity of a Ford Lightning, with the larger battery pack to recoup the $13 fee. The subscription has been available since Tesla opened a limited number of superchargers to all EVs last year, using so-called Magic Dock adapters. This is true, but it was open before the Magic Dock was available in Europe. It makes sense that Tesla is giving preferential treatment to its own customers who, up until now, had exclusive access to the vast majority of superchargers. Magic Dock access has so far been very limited. Many Tesla owners bought their cars specifically because of the charging network, which is regarded as superior to rivals like Electrify America and EVgo. Get to the math, please. Well, I guess he did get the math. If you fill up a Ford Lightning most of the way, you've paid it off for that month. Uh, Now that's changing. At that site, the expensive site. Um, They'll incorporate NACS. It's a big win. Well, there we go. So I assumed it'd be the typical inside EVs where they have like the charts and graphs and stuff, and they didn't this time. Real winner would be the charging network that finds a way to source at least a portion of their power from off-grid and drive pricing down to keep them far more competitive than ICE vehicles. That's the next game. And here Tesla stands. I don't know. I want to say that nicely. They have a head start here as well, because when we look at their impact reports for the last couple of years, where they say that the Tesla Energy input more into the grid than the cars and the factory, not just a factory, but all the factories together, took back out of the various grids. As long as they kept the deployments up, then they have a head start at this. Is the only way to look at it. And so if we wanted to get into a pricing war, they have they stand a chance to do very well at it. So they do not having more than the already aging 3 and Y and volume production after 6 years. It's understandable the company would transition to being an energy company only. BYD does that and so much more. That's if you looked at them as an electric car only company, and they're not that. And the 3 has just been refreshed substantially, and the Y will probably be there next year, at least in the U.S. if it's not already going to be there at the end of the year in China. So I will join them in thumbs downing this guy. The flip side is they're generally priced similarly to other networks, sometimes more, sometimes less. I'm happy to be paying a few cents premium knowing I'll have consistent experience. Yeah, as long as they're not like outrageous. Because if they are outrageous, then I take out my CCS adapter and go to that other place. The reason I got the CCS adapter wasn't because I thought I'd be using CCS a lot, but because I wanted to be able to charge at the NACS sites, since NACS uses CCS protocol. And with my car being legacy, it would be unable to charge even though the cable would fit in my port. Okay, and that ends our NACS feature for the show. Let's continue on. This is coming from Tesla Scope. They have sources, unnamed sources. Starting in March, for the first time ever, the Model S and X will begin delivering with RGB ambient lighting, a front bumper camera, and other changes. So the ambient lighting was something that we expected to have happened at some point, because the original Palladium cars, Plaid and new long range, or just standard, uh, they all had ports and labels and such and routing for ambient lighting, and then no ambient lighting. So now it's just a matter of filling them in, just like on my Model X. All the Model X's came with the ambient lighting, and ours is just only one color. It wasn't RGB ambient lighting. And if you got a car that didn't ship with it, like as a feature, like it's in there, it's just not plugged in. If you plugged it in, you'd find that the lights would light up for a second and they would turn off again forever because you didn't pay for it. And this was the opposite. The car had everything in there, but there were no bulbs and no, not bulbs, but there's no way to actually get that out of the car. And um, uh-oh, Somebody's in the room for the collab cam. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Uh, oh no, there wasn't. I was looking at the wrong thing. Sorry. Um, Mr. All Electric says that's why I didn't hear it because there wasn't anybody there. Mr. All Electric says, fun fact: if you hear about a new EQE fire from this week, it's apparently a homeowner reposting footage from last July. So if you hear about a Mercedes fire, Mr. All Electric found somebody who is trying to just do the electric car flood smear again. Um, that was the one in July that we probably already talked about and wondered on for a while. So it's not a new one. So don't let your friends and frenemies get you spooked. I mean, you already know that electric car fires are way less common than combustion fires, but he's saying it's not new. Or I should say they're saying Mr. So he's saying it's not new. Let's see. So yeah, so the Model S and X are finally getting the LED ambient lighting that we expected them to get, and what is big is the front bumper camera because that's going to be like what we saw on Cybertruck, where you can kind of use it to navigate around. I'm curious if it will have the washer on the front camera like we see on the Cybertruck, hopefully, and then once that happens, will we see it tied into the FSD camera? There's a port for it, but will we see it tied into FSD as an input for control? And I think we will. And then will that help out at all with some of the blind corners we have from old cities where old cities on one-way roads where the building is like right on the edge of the street and you can't see around the building to know if it's safe to make the turn or not, where you'd have to kind of lean all the way forward uh, in your seats, or more common than old cities with buildings in the bad places is overgrown brush and situations like that where there's just no sight line to the street and you have to get out pretty far to guess if you're making a safe exit onto the road. But that's exciting, and Tesla has been wrong in the past, but they've got a pretty good track record, so I'm excited, and we'll see when it happens. Reports are coming in already that folks are prepping to take delivery this month in March with these features already installed. This one I wrote, aka Hyperloop? Question mark. Why did I say that? Because this is an experimental 620 mile per hour low vacuum high speed rail pipeline. Sounds like the definition of Hyperloop to me. Being built in, you guessed it, China. Come on, America. By Instagram, my China trip, and that looks like a Hyperloop to me. And low vacuum, 620 miles per hour, pretty straight. Sounds like a Hyperloop. So that was exciting. And it's in China, so I won't get a chance to ride it anytime soon. And this one, complaining about oil nation, not oil nations, oil municipalities, oil municipality. So, OMG, this is the most Alberta thing I've ever heard of. Something Texas would do if Musk wasn't there. Um, the province of Alberta has announced today they will be instituting a $200 a year Canadian dollar a year tax on EVs starting on January 1st, 2025. The EV tax will not apply to hybrids. And we see this everywhere. They're always giving the exception to hybrids, and they're always taxing EVs to do their fair share. Some of them, it's a reasonable fee. Like in South Dakota, it's $50 a year. Okay, I could burn $50 in gas tax in a year, and even in a Prius. But in states like South Carolina, it's $400. Virginia, it's $500. I've heard as high as $1,000 if you don't burn gas tax. If I didn't drive electric, I'd be driving a flippin' Prius, and there's no way I would burn $1,000 in gas tax in a year. It's impossible. So if you want to make them pay their fair share, you need a better scheme and a better number, and then you need to actually focus on who's really destroying your roads, and that is commercial trucks. It's not even the dude in the Rodozer who, because his car is jacked up to the sky and has the big wheels on it, he's burning more gas, so you're getting more gas tax from him anyway. But if your argument is that EVs weigh more, which is not a fact, if your argument is that EVs weigh more, it should be a sensible number. The EVs, if you compare a similar car, so something like this AI drawn Model 3 in front of us, it weighs within 250 pounds of the similarly equipped BMW M3. So we're talking about one American male. We're not talking another ton or two. Like people are like, oh my goodness, the EVs are destroying the world. They're not destroying all the roads. It's just a matter of using outdated figures there. So the tax should be proportional. If you want to say that they're not paying their fair share, it should be proportional to the use they actually do and the damage they actually do to the road. Because obviously, a Model 3 is going to do more damage to the road than a motorcycle. Most motorcycles, I should say. But $1,000 and you don't burn gas taxes is just usurious. That's all it is. And so like the commentator was saying that like since Alberta is the oil province of Canada, it's the same thing that we'd expect to see coming out of Texas or Alaska. Like, oh yeah, let's just do this thing. Just screw the EVs. Um, all right, so Texas just did the same $200 fee, and that $200 fee in Texas is higher than the one in Alberta because we don't use the loonie, aka Canadian dollar. Wait and see. They still can't sell the cars in Texas or almost all places in the U.S. because of Star Steel Ship Spiderweb. I don't want to say almost all places. There's a few places in the U.S. they can't sell. Next up, I said something. I don't know what. I put it in from my phone. Ah, targeting 20% below regulation isn't respecting the regulation unless you expect your lobbyists to be successfully roll back EVs. But by then, this is what customers will want to buy. Toyota is just complaining that people call them anti-EV. Toyota was just, like recently, this is a separate thought. Toyota was just complaining no people called them anti-EV, and then they continued like this garbage. So Electric is reporting that Toyota says it would rather buy credits than waste money on EVs. Oh, but you can't say we're anti-electrics. Look, we're anti-electric. That seems like a great strategy of the past. Why do they keep telling everyone the 30 new EVs arriving by 2026? Talk about sending out mixed signals again. Yes. Okay, I'll accept them. Tesla, Toyota paying their way towards their own death. Yeah, understandable. BYD is invading, and Japan just slipped into recession. BYD is not coming to the U.S. The CEO just said, at least not anytime soon. Translation: we have no idea what the F we're doing and can't keep up with Tesla. Do I want to? Toyota raises profit forecast amid strong sales. Okay, if you say so. Toyota will be BlackBerry to Tesla's Apple. Maybe. I know someone who is selling them, and they will gladly take Toyota's hard-earned revenue to build their next factory. Ah, yes, I see what you're saying. Somebody who is selling EVs successfully, paying Tesla one way or another. Oh, you should have seen the post. Actually, you will see the post I made for the. So that's where all my reminders are coming from this article. Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy says the way Toyota is going, there are going to be more gas Tundras in 2030 than gas F-150s. I agree, 100%. Yeah. So in the article where I got that quote, let's read his whole quote. CEO of Toyota isn't mincing words, saying that he believes the EVs will only make up 30% of the U.S. new vehicle market in 2030, half of the target the EPA saw last year. I don't know why all these companies are acting surprised. They all, even Toyota and them, got input 30 years ago when they set the trajectory for the EPA requirements. So nobody should be surprised by this. And then even if you were somehow surprised that the thing that you agreed is happening, California has made no. California hasn't they haven't they haven't misled anybody that this is where they were going. From from the minute they started the ZEV mandate, when the EV1 was shown off, they're like, "Oh, great! You guys know how to do this now? It's the law." And by that I mean several thousand. Yeah, exactly. Um, in an interview with Automotive News, Toyota CEO Ted Ogawa said that the Japanese automaker plans to go with customer demand, and from his view, that's varying degrees of electrification, usually in the form of hybrids with gas-burning engines. Because you keep advertising them. If you would advertise with somebody in a bikini, sleek-looking new EV instead of this ugly monstrosity that you guys have for an EV, I think you might get some sales. All right, so let's go on to the electric take. Of course, none of this is terribly surprising. The brand is a huge champion of hybrids all along and sells just one EV for each of its two US brands, the Toyota BZ4X and the Lexus RZ450E. Crossovers, same car, different paint. Plus, the love of hybrids has drawn criticism from advocacy groups, including Public Citizen, for continuing to sell ICE and hybrid cars past 2030. Toyota has a history of greenwashing in its advertising and marketing, calling it half a dozen hybrid models electrified, which confuses customers on purpose. Toyota, pretty much like all other automakers operating in the US, has a worried eye on China entering the US through Mexico, although BYD has said it has no plans to sell cars in the US due to too many hassles. Still, the fear is there, and the possibility looms that lower-priced Chinese vehicles will undercut those sold by other automakers, as has happened in Mexico. Well, in that case, make your cars cheaper. Obviously, you can't put everything we're used to in them at the lower price, but that's not what BYD is selling, is it? Uh, Not at the low price, anyway. Still, the fear is there. Possibility looms that lower price down. Their product is so competitive, including with tariffs in Mexico, Ogawa told Automotive News. But China also saw, for example, that labor cost is increasing and material costs as well. So that's why someday they'll be in the same condition as other automakers in North America. But they're not right now. All right, Cypress says, for example, 2030 regulations said the new car market, more than half of the market should be EVs, but our current plan is 30%. Yeah, so basically what I said. Oh, so we have to be at 50? Let's do 30. This seems to be an often misunderstood concept. There's no mandate on EPA regulations for EVs, uh, which is true. They have an emissions requirement, and this has to be a certain amount of zero emissions. So you can do it with hydrogen if you could convince customers that that they have a place to fuel up and that they can actually use this thing in their day-to-day lives. But it's really the only practical, affordable way that you can meet this mandate for emissions requirements is with EVs. And letting consumer demand drive EPA regulations is sort of the reverse of what we need for clean air and healthy communities. Yeah, like I was saying with the advertisements. Our dealers ask us every day how we'll compete with China in the US. How about you don't worry about China and worry about who actually is already here? Tesla, Rivian. Still, we have the better product. You think you have a better product? Really? Why are your sales dropping? However, it is unclear how to keep competitiveness in the terms of MSRP or price area. You don't just compete on dollars. You want your car to be compelling. Wow, my comment really got down there. If you want to read it, go read my comments. I have several on here. And next up, Fisker's not doing very well, and they gave out some pretty troubling financial reports. And now they are talking with Nissan, or likely Nissan. I don't remember how it actually went. It's talking with Nissan for a Lifeline and electric pickup partnership. Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy says, in an alternate timeline, Toyota is subsidizing the $1,500 customer electric bills for commuters to split hydrogen at home and sidestep regulatory credits. I could see them doing that. It would be cheaper than what they're doing right now with hydrogen. If only the Honda fill hadn't been canceled, and instead of doing natural gas, instead of doing methane at home from your natural gas bill, they could do uh, just run it all day to reform hydrogen from water, and then pump it into your car when you park for the night. For those who aren't familiar, the Honda Fill, because it's old now, the Honda Fill was a device that sat on your gas line at home, and it would compress your natural gas overnight into your car. So that in the morning you would be able to drive off on a compressed natural gas Honda Civic and CNG. Otherwise, they could have used that same tech for hydrogen. Obviously, they had to change the materials and beef up the pressure, but they could have done that same concept to fill up their hydrogen car. The Clarity, the FCX Clarity at first, and then the Honda Clarity later. But and obviously I'm talking about the fuel cell version, not the hybrid or plug-in hybrid one that they came out with later. But they went and canceled it. All right, so in order to stay in business, Fisker's going to need help, and so it's been revealed that Nissan is the potential legacy auto manufacturer they were talking to help them out with production. That's interesting. Earlier today, we reported on Fisker's disastrous fourth quarter results, showing that the electric vehicle startup lost $400 million in 2023, and it now has less than $400 million in cash on hand. The automaker had to admit that it would be unable to continue operations past next year without a big cash injection. It did reveal that it is talking to a large automaker about investment that could save the company. And then on X, people were clowning them because Marquez said that the Fisker that he reviewed was trash. The worst car he'd ever reviewed, he said. It did reveal that it's talking to a large automaker about investment the investment that could save the company. And now Reuters has reported that the automaker in question is Nissan. Nissan knows a thing or two about building cars, and they've been building EVs for a while. And they finally started building liquid-cooled EVs, so this could be a useful partnership. Nissan is in advanced talks to invest in electric vehicle maker Fisker in a deal that could provide the Japanese automaker with access to an electric pickup truck while giving the struggling startup a financial lifeline, according to two people familiar with the negotiations. The deal would reportedly involve Nissan investing $400 million, so 1 year of operation, into Fisker, and it would also involve Nissan building the Alaska pickup truck unveiled by Fisker last year. Alaska doesn't quite fit in with their naming scheme. All their names are like water. How is Alaska water? I mean, it's kind of icy, yeah, but not, it's not like an ocean and whatever. On top of it, glacier. On top of it, Nissan could use the Alaska platform to build its own electric pickup truck. That would be kind of cool. A Nissan Frontier. Neither Nissan nor Fisker commented on the report. Like a Nissan Frontier based on a Fisker platform would be kind of cool. And Electric says they're not sure what to think about it. I've never been a big fan of Fisker, and I've warned people about investing in the company before. If it's true, I don't know what Nissan sees in this. They're behind on developing electric pickup trucks. It might be worth it to them. Yeah, basically if they can skip some R&D from doing this. But I think any significant investment would be a takeover of the company, and that could be it as well. They put your toe in the door, and then when they start to take off, then you say, "Hey, we'll just buy the rest of you now." It's now worth less than $300 million, and wow, yeah, so they will own the company basically. If they invest $400 million, a company worth $300 million, and that might be an attractive investment as a company that had $200 million in revenue last quarter in the growing EV market, but the looks are deceiving. It could work. After all, Nissan have the money and manufacturing capacity, and we could use more EV models. As Electric highlighted before, Fisker was desperate in its previous fundraising efforts and took convertible notes, which now add up to $1.2 billion, according to its latest SEC filing. Currently, there's just no way Fisker can manage to pay that back, and therefore they will convert to stock and drastically dilute for current shareholders. So I don't see a good outcome here other than Nissan picking up the whole company for cheap and accelerating its EV programs with it. That would be cool. And then they would stop getting such bad reviews. Yes. So what do you guys think? I I think I think this could work for them. Yeah, because that's what we want in this country is pickup trucks. So like comparing my washing machine versus the LG, ultra fast lithium ion, and something about what Americans really want. All right, let's see where we are on our. All right, it says we're live and we're mostly caught up. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your time today, and I want to thank our channel members and patrons for your monetary support of the show. And we will catch you next week, same time. And for those of you that also watch the Tesla Live show, we'll catch you tomorrow at 7 p.m. for our Tesla Life Express, and Wednesday for the regular Tesla Life live show. Catch you on the flip side.